Indeed. It's finally Friday, August 16th here on WLIJ. Of course, it's time for a government talk program now with very own Mr. Scott Johnson, speaking today with Bedford County Mayor Mr. Chad Graham. Without further ado, fellas, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Producer Brandon. This is Scott Johnson on behalf of Hopkins Farm Broadcasting here in Shelbyville, Tennessee, Bedford County. It's that time of the month where we have in Bedford County Mayor Chad Graham to talk about different things going on in county government. Looks like it's going to be I think Mayor's supposed to have a little bit of rain today, but I don't know. Sunshine's looking good.
Yeah, it was nice out this morning. We're happy to be here.
It was, and it wasn't the stifling 98-degree heat we were having there for several weeks. And
the weather you can wear.
We got rain. I know farmers are getting that second cut in the hay now instead of worrying about even getting that first one in before. It was so dry for a while there. Now, county government, which encompasses a whole bunch of things, there's always a lot going on. And let's talk about a little bit about, budget got passed, of course, a little over a month ago. No property tax increase.
No property tax increase. Budgets, yeah, correct. And the budget process has stabilized over the last few years thanks to a lot of hard work from different disciplines within the government, but also the county commission supporting restructuring it. So you didn't. It's allowed us to manage that rate, but it does not keep us from having challenges internally in those budgets, obviously all the time, in an effort to keep that stability where we don't find ourselves having to put that kind of pressure on the taxpayer if we can help it.
Well, and inflation's been so bad for the last several years, and that affects everything the county buys. That affects salaries. That affects everything, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great statement because people like to say a lot of times they talk about gasoline. Well, you don't have to pay as much for the gas as we do. That is true that the county government is exempt from the tax on the gasoline, but we still buy the gasoline. And so even though I may buy the gasoline 20 cents cheaper than you do, when it goes up 8 cents, it goes up 8 cents for me, just like it went up 8 cents for you.
Yeah, because the budget you did, which I used to have to do, is based on that lower amount.
Correct.
You're not budgeting for the full amount that civilians have to pay. So I'm glad you brought that point up. You're budgeting it that way.
Anytime there's a new fee or restructuring of how we collect revenues, that even when they're not necessarily property tax, again, the government employees and the elected officials are not exempt from these rules. So we pay those at our home. We feel those impacts in our household just like everybody else does. So that's
groceries, you name it. Well, I mean, even look at the sheriff's department. They got to feed a lot of inmates.
Absolutely.
Food prices are up.
Absolutely.
Fuel prices are roughly up 50% from 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, and that's certainly when you got an ambulance service you got to pay for. You got the sheriff's department's on patrol in a very large county. Fire department has to respond. I mean, that all impacts us. So we're talking about inflation, folks, and the prices on all that stuff has gone up tremendously. And you all know it out there is listening. I mean, it's in your pocketbook.
Right. And when you say, the government encompasses a lot of things, we happen to be talking about fuel, and it brings me to this very issue. And of course, it is absolutely true. The fluctuation, we ride it up and we ride it down just like the citizen does. But also when it comes to fuel, and particularly when these pricing and things happen across the country or the world, and there's disruptions in fuel sourcing, we feel that same disruption that the public could and has and does from time to time, and that's one of the things that's in our long-term strategic plan is to be able to manage fuel and actually hold fuel a little, not like the strategic oil like the federal government would do, but we need our own fueling system that we manage some volume, because the current model that we have, we simply are buying at the pump, so to speak,
commercially,
like everybody else. And if there was a shortage or a disruption, or there had to be a prioritization of who's going to get fuel for a short-term emergency, we're at a disadvantage without having that opportunity. And we've reached the point, over 50,000 people, over 350 employees, with huge discipline across the system, especially when you bring the school system in there with us with busing and what have you. So we're very close to having to really take the next steps in looking at how we will do that going forward.
I can say from past experience in emergency management, we had to plan several times.
Absolutely.
And I remember doing it once when you were at EMS, where we were worried about ambulances being able to pick people up having heart attacks because of the shortage of diesel fuel at that time, or gasoline or whatever, of deputies being able to respond when somebody's house was getting broken into.
That's exactly right.
Fire departments being able to get there and put out a fire. I mean, we went through extensive planning with the city and the county.
We even reached to the point of reaching out to the local co-op.
Yes.
A backup option, because they do have some fuel. And of course, it's going to be very limited too. But you're exactly right. There was some times whenever
that happened more than once.
It was tight, and so there's just a lot of reasons long term to be looking at. It's not something that has rose above the other challenges that we've been facing, but it's every day we're getting.
It's probably going to come again.
It is
because as we rely, for a while there was pretty good because we had our own fuel sources here in the United States, so the fuel was constant, right? But when we rely on these foreign powers to do it, that's when we always had problems, because they all of a sudden didn't like what we were doing. They'd cut off our fuel supply. And then what does that cut it off? Well, it's just not me and you trying to drive to work or to the grocery store. It's a public safety issue.
Absolutely.
And so I'm glad to hear we're taking a look at that, because that's actually an emergency response issue.
Yeah.
Being able to have that, at least having like 30 days of supply anyway.
Exactly.
Of doing something like that.
We know where we need to go with that, and we think with a few more adjustments and things that we've been planning in the background, we think we'll be able to put a plan forward in the near future for that.
Outstanding. You mentioned population being over 50,000. I think roughly last time I heard maybe 52,000. Of course, when I grew up here, I'm a little older than you. Okay, not a whole lot, but a little bit. I remember it was about 28,000. And now in Shelbyville, the town itself was maybe 12 or 13,000. Well, now we're over 50. We've almost doubled in that period of time. Yeah. So there's a lot of challenges that come with that for government, having to provide not extra services, but just basic services, right?
Absolutely.
Public safety, infrastructure, schools, and that's a challenge that you face all the time as a county mayor, right?
Absolutely. And when you scatter things out, and that's one of the values, one of the reasons people want to live in the rural settings, is because they don't want someone necessarily within 300 feet of their house, where the next house is. But when you scatter those resources out, then it puts us in a situation where we'll always have limited funds available to add new service. And so then we are put in a situation, the county commission has to wind up in the middle of this with us. But if you could build one new ambulance station or fire station today, but only one, where would you put it in Bedford? And so that creates a lot of anxiety and challenges, both politically and really truthfully, strategically, about how do we get the most value out of that for the citizens. So when you are in a more condensed area, it makes some of those things easier, but also there is a counter to that as well, as I would argue for the city in this particular case. The closer you have people in proximity to each other, the more trouble you're going to have with daily living, you might say, scenarios. And so the city, so it's a trade-off. It's not that everything's perfect.
Each has its own issues.
It surely does. It surely does.
And the population growth, I know we've had Dr. Garrett in here quite a bit, and she's talked a lot about how the student population has increased quite a bit over the last few years in the school systems and the challenges that come with that. And obviously counties are under a mandate. We have to educate folks, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, but
cities may, but counties shall.
She made a comment when she was in here the other day. Of course, Cartwright Elementary just opened that nice, beautiful school out there off Fairfield Pike. And once they got open, they were starting with a certain number of students. Well, that number has already gone up over 10% from what they predicted starting.
And we tried to build that school with some
excess capacity.
Correct. And it's, again, there's a lot of things that are causing that to dissipate quickly, you might say, in regards. So I feel like in the past maybe we had not done enough true planning for a little bit more than just today, but that's just not the case when it comes to that Cartwright Elementary. There was a lot of strategic planning from all disciplines, including public safety and how it affects them. Obviously, the school system, obviously the county.
It was a great partnership.
The highways were involved in that, about traffic management. There's a lot of things. And then what should that capacity look like versus what you can practically afford? And those were all baked into the model. And here we are, even under the best of circumstances, with this just growth that is not been able to be managed really like you would want it to. It's sucking up the capacity even under the best of circumstances. So the two places we see it right away with growth, heavy growth, fast growth that comes a little quicker than you would ideally want it, is this going to show up in public safety. You're going to get ambulance calls. You're going to get law enforcement involved, and you're going to see it in education, because the folks, when they come here with their kid, whether they went and changed their driver's license address, or they went and got their new car tags, or they bought their insurance, or whatever else to do, they're showing up first day at the education facility to enroll the child. So we're seeing those are strong meters of what we're dealing with when we see public safety demand fluctuate because of it, and we see it obviously in the classroom.
Well, in that strategic planning, for instance, in building schools, they don't have a lot of excess capacity, but they do, and they should, because I think we learned a few lessons over the last several years that when we delay construction projects that we basically know we're going to have to do, it costs a lot of money to delay projects.
It does,
because construction costs have gone up so much over the last 4 or 5 years.
It does, and there's no question. I mean, nobody wants to spend money we don't have to spend.
No, of course not. No, I'm talking about for basic
raise
services.
Taxes, and we certainly are going to do everything in our power to not do that. But the truth is, the county government is not going out of business, and the county government will not be, because of state law, not responsible for education and public safety. So on those two logics alone, the fact of the matter is, no matter who sits in the mayor's seat, and when politics comes around and time to run, everybody talks about what they'll cut and what they won't do and what they will do. But we have obligations under the law that we're required to do, and they can't. Whoever sits in this seat can't get out from under that. But I say all that to say this: you can't run the system like you're going out of business. It's a mathematical certainty that it's going to cost more when you delay. The history clearly dictates that, and we know. I don't think there's anybody that believes that Bedford County is shrinking, not growing, and so it's really not fair to the taxpayer for us not to attempt to manage this in a metered way that we can financially manage as we go, and that's certainly what we're doing. And the County Commission has come right alongside with that same commitment.
Folks, we're talking to Bedford County Mayor Chad Graham about things going on in county government here. We're going to take a 60-second break. We'll be right back.
Hey, listen up. Kincaid's is currently having a big closeout sale on all furniture. Take advantage of deals on a huge inventory of name brands like Flex Steel, Jackson, Catnapper, Ashley, Ardent Home, and so much more. It's time to stop by Kincaid's and shop the huge inventory during their big closeout sale while supplies last. Buy local with Kincaid's, offering financing and free local delivery. Located on the Kincaid corner on Madison Street in Shelbyville. Kincaid Service Company, where service is their middle name.
At Dr. Hasty Family Eye Care, they strive to bring you excellence. Their family-friendly atmosphere makes going to the doctor a breeze. They provide their patients with in-depth eye exams with same-day glasses, a wide selection of name-brand frames like Ray-Ban, Versace, Coach, and more. They also have contact lenses and are able to treat ocular diseases and eye injuries. Need an eye exam? Trust Dr. Hasty and Family Eye Care, located at 605 North Main Street in Shelbyville, directly across from the U.S. Post Office, 931-684-2020.
I know one of the other things that you focused heavily on is having connectivity. Rural counties has always been difficult, and I think we're still considered a rural county. and one of the things is for broadband, as far as, let's just call it internet connectivity for folks living in our rural areas. Kind of where we are on that.
Yeah, that as you know, that is really, I ran on three categories: education, public safety, and infrastructure. Education, public safety, self-explanatory. Infrastructure, what does that mean? Is that pipes in the ground? Is that sewer? Is that water? Those things are all important.
Roads, don't forget roads.
That's right, and don't forget roads. But what I was really focused on or thinking about with that model was really broadband as infrastructure, connectivity. I didn't even really have the appreciation that I have now after COVID having come and really shine light on connectivity and the importance of it. But I recognize the value of broadband, and then, of course, I wanted to be a part of a next-generation economic development engine. So we've got successes there as well, and we're excited about it. There's been several $million that has been invested in Bedford through grants that we didn't have to reach into our own pocket to try to advance these broadband systems or networks, you might say, the hardwire piece of it. We've had a tremendous partner in United Communications, but we've also have opportunities for partnerships with other providers, and we want everyone to be involved. It just so happened that United was in good position to apply for these grants and for us to partner with them, and they've really made some huge investments in what I'd say is the hardware side of broadband connectivity, and that's going to make it easier to actually get it to the door for the citizen. And not every citizen has high-speed internet today, but we continue to work on that and are committed to it, and millions of dollars have been spent on it, and there's one more round of federal dollars, and we are already in the process of making application and working with our internet service providers to make sure that Bedford applies, and if at all possible, gets this last tranche of funds that will, again, make us one close step closer to being a fully connected county. And that's a goal that I have. That's a goal that I would love to see. And fully connected won't mean every house in Bedford under any circumstance may have connectivity, but we'll have a much better map, you might say, for people to evaluate and make decisions about when they're looking where they want to buy and build.
Well, you know, in that expansion and more robust capability, I think a lot of folks, when they take a look at this, they go, well, you know, internet connectivity, get on there, do some shopping. Well, no, a lot of people work from home now.
Absolutely.
We've got one of the real focuses for me when I take a look at it is there's a lot of elderly people that have health care issues, and now that Tennessee allows virtual visits, like on a FaceTime type call, which I've done before, and not put me in the elderly category, okay? But where they're living out in a rural area and they need to get a doctor, get a prescription, do something, they don't have time to go to Murfreesboro or somewhere else, they can actually be able to, once they have that, just get online and meet with it, because most doctors do that now, meet with their doctor online. And what a great benefit for our senior citizens to be able to provide a more efficient way for health care.
Well, and on that same note, we're right now in the process of working on a grant that would potentially give us some technology to be put even in the basement of the courthouse for our veterans, because we shuffle a lot of veterans to the veterans facilities in Murfreesboro and Nashville, and appointments for those that meet the criteria for it, but the demand far exceeds our ability to serve. And so right now, under that telemedicine, and the VA is one of the first federal agencies that embraced it early on, and so they're very good at it. In fact, being a veteran, and you're a veteran as well, I prefer to have in-person visits when I do go, but there's a lot of services they provide that they don't offer in person. You have to do online for it. So we think this is another opportunity for us to serve the veteran and not have to necessarily try to travel people every time in regards to that. So speaking to it, but also even on the simplest things almost now that you want to do, particularly with government and a lot of businesses, they want to have a connect. They want that first connect with you to have been through some kind of interface where they're capturing information about you and what have you. The old days of just pick up the phone and call, make an appointment and do this or schedule that is there's still a little bit of that to be done, but it's usually a long line of sitting on the phone. You're the 76th caller, but if you'll go to our website, you can have immediate access and schedule your appointment and blah blah blah, and someone will call you back. And so you're correct in that it is nice, and we become accustomed to having information at our fingertips. But even almost what we say essential business is now really being almost exclusively pushed to some form of connectivity to make that connection. So again, we've got to stay the course. We're on it. We're out in front of it compared to a lot of the rural counties around us. We're proud of that, and we're committed to continue to plow the ground till we get everybody in Bedford County the opportunity for connectivity.
Speaking of plowing the ground, I think that's an agriculture term, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so many of our farmers now use high tech. They need internet connectivity. And, of course, this is, if we're not the number one ag county in the state, I guarantee we're number 2, and I believe we're number 1 overall.
We certainly have been, and we may be now, and particularly there's some different categories. But on that very note, and it wasn't long after I got elected, I had some farmers reach out to me that had, because I really didn't have a real appreciation for it, but I certainly wouldn't have thought Bedford County, you know, where I grew up, that they got these high-tech tractors that really could drive themselves, and these
GPS
things,
connected, how much they plant in the ground at a time. It's gotten very sophisticated for a lot of the farmers. It
has, and what this farmer recited to me about needing that connectivity and the value of that connectivity, he actually has to spray some of the crops that he raises, but there are federal regulations and guidelines, and if that tractor was internet connected, it would capture all the data appropriate and submit it, where he's having to do it all manually. And it's things like temperature, humidity outside, wind drift that day, how close you are to water streams. I mean, things that I was like, wow, I thought farmers drove around in the dust plowing and putting corn in the ground and pray it rains and it comes up. Well, those things happen, but there still is
a lot of praying for rain, by the way. But go ahead.
But there's so much more to it now than that, and that's just a classic example of it. So, and in fact, there was a huge broadband dollar allocation in the Farm Bill because they recognize it's not just in Bedford County, Tennessee, but the problem is the Farm Bill keeps getting hung up at the federal level and it hadn't been passed, and so we've got our eyes on it too.
What? They're not passing legislation at the federal level?
I know, it's stunning. But Bedford County has got our eye on that as well at the federal level because, again, we know even through agriculture the critical component of having that connectivity. So we're looking everywhere we can to get that connectivity into our county without us having to make huge investments into our tax rate, because we're lean, and we should be lean, and we have issues that we plan for but we still can't manage from time to time. So we're not trying to take on any new burdens, but there are some things that we must invest in. Broadband is one of them, simply like education and public safety. And
it's we're well on the way, and I know one of your goals was to be the first rural totally connected. When I say total, that's probably 95% anyway of folks connected out there, and it appears to me from the things I've had access to is we're well on the way to doing that.
We are, and that broad term would include also folks that could have connectivity through their cell services and those things. Right. Obviously, we won't be able to put a hard line to every house and in every road and every address, you might say, in the county right away. But some form of broadband, meaning more than just the old jetpack that if you set it in the window just right on Tuesday afternoons as the sun's not shining on it.
It's a certain temperature.
Yeah, you could get a little bit of time on the internet before it would, we use the term puke, but now we've come a long ways in general, and technology is getting better. All those things are going to make it easier, but I would want the citizens to understand that we recognize the value of that, and we recognize that's an essential part of a strong community, just like water and sewer now.
People do banking online. They do, and like I said, folks with limited mobility, a lot of our senior citizens, what a great way to help them out as part of your program and what you're doing there. It's about that time. We're almost out of time, Mayor, but I know it's that time of the year where we have, what's that little event we have out here? The Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration.
Wow.
You want to say something about that?
Well, I think, is this the 86th year?
That sounds correct.
That is
so 1939. So I added up.
Yeah. So it's just amazing to me, all these years later, the impact that has made when you look backwards at what that has done for this community and the origins of it. Again, you would know better than me, but I've seen the pictures in the archives up at the courthouse where they used to have parades around the courthouse whenever there wasn't no asphalt or no sidewalks. So this has been going on a while, and it's pretty impressive to see how the community supported it then, how the community has stayed true to it all these years later, and despite challenges and growing pains that all businesses and industries have, it's been resilient, and it's been a tremendous asset to our community.
I think there's very few things in the state of Tennessee as special events, because the celebration is a nonprofit. It's not a for-profit business out there. That 100-acre complex out there, which includes that 30,000-seat stadium and roughly 5,000-seat Cooper Steel Arena out there, is a nonprofit. But things are going well. I can tell you this, Mayor. Right now, the three things that are looked at really hard to see if we're going to have a successful celebration are box seat sales. Those are up. Entries of horses, numbers of entries that are up, those are up. Sponsorships by local and other business folks on what to do are up. So all the three major indicators on our metrics out there are up. So I think it's going to be a great year for a great show. And we want to encourage everybody to come on out. You know, that growth we talked about between 28 and 52,000, a lot of our folks didn't necessarily grow up with the Walking Horse Show. And so we'd encourage you folks to come on out, attend the horse show starting next Wednesday and going through the following through August 31st on the Saturday. Come on out. It's a family event. It's a family atmosphere. We have a lot of civic clubs that probably make at least 50% of the revenue that they put back into the community is made during the Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration. And, of course, we always have to put a plug in for get a donut.
Absolutely, and a country ham sandwich. If you're not from the South, you got to experience this.
Come on out. It's a fun time. Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration right off Madison Street there, that 100-acre complex. That I'll use the term plows again. Plows the economic impact, and I think we probably need to do another study on that, because years ago, the impact of that throughout the year was about $50 million. I think, and I believe it's a lot higher than that now. That study was done like 15 years ago or something like that. So come out. They're eating in our restaurants. They're paying sales tax. They're staying in our hotels. They're buying feed and hay and everything else while they're here. So, folks, if you see somebody, out-of-town visitors, please say hi and actually tell them thank you for coming to town and helping out and celebrate Tennessee Walking Horse here on that. Mayor, we are out of time. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go off the air?
Just excited to be a part of this, and we're grateful to WLIJ for allowing us to get our message out and talk about some of the things that we deal with every day in government that the public doesn't necessarily.
It's not something they're focused on every day.
And they should.
They want to elect you and you take care of business.
That's right, and that's what we intend to do. So we're thankful for the opportunity.
Folks, we've been talking to Bedford County Mayor Chad Graham about various issues and challenges in federal government here in Bedford County. Mayor, I know everyone appreciates what you and the staff and the many men and women that work for you do to help make Bedford County a better place to live and work. Folks, every month we have 11 government or government-related talk shows right here, and we're going to use another agriculture term. So if you really want to know what's going on, you want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
That's right.
Tune in here. It's normally between Tuesdays and Fridays at 0900 for you military types, 9 a.m., and actually listen to the folks that are doing the work and serving you, the public, here in Bedford County to find out what's really going on and get that information. This is Scott Johnson on behalf of Hopkins Farm Broadcasting, the only locally owned radio station here in Bedford County. Until next time.
At Dr. Hasty Family Eye Care, they strive to bring you excellence. Their family-friendly atmosphere makes going to the doctor a breeze. They provide their patients with in-depth eye exams with same-day glasses, a wide selection of name-brand frames like Ray-Ban, Versace, Coach, and more. They also have contact lenses and are able to treat ocular diseases and eye injuries. Need an eye exam? Trust Dr. Hasty and Family Eye Care, located at 605 North Main Street in Shelbyville, directly across from the U.S. Post Office. 931-684-2020.
Isn't it time you had a good night's sleep? People at their best get their beauty rest with a personalized Simmons Beauty Rest sleep experience from Kincaid's, who's always been your hometown source for top-notch customer care. From inner spring and plush to the luxurious Beauty Rest Harmony Collection, featuring pocketed coil technology designed to restore your sleep with individualized support. Call Kincaid's at 931-684-5662 and get your beauty rest with impressive selection of Simmons Beauty Rest mattresses today.
Get your construction project to the checkered flag with Lee Adcock Construction from the ground up. From industrial and commercial to churches, schools, warehouses, and concrete, Lee Adcock Construction will see you to the checkered flag. They pride themselves on doing quality work to the customer satisfaction from the ground up. Call now, 931-684-1771, or visit leeadcock.com. Lee Adcock Construction is a proud sponsor of the NASCAR Cup Series on WLIJ.
Modernize your kitchen with elegant cabinet designs from C&J Wood Design. See how your new cabinets will look in your new home with their unique 3D design technology, free with every project order. Now, with 2 locations, you can visit our new showroom on North Jackson and Tullahoma across from the movie theater, and in Shelbyville off Highway 41A near Old Columbia Road. So modernize your kitchen with beautiful cabinet designs from C&J Wood Design in Shelbyville and Tullahoma. C&J Wood Design, better by design.
Be sure to join us each and every Saturday morning right here on the leader for pure classic country for the Paul Jones Old Time Country Music Radio Show. Live and on location from historical Studio B in Ryland Street, Alabama, USA. Paul and Marilyn are always sure to get you going with toe tap and bluegrass and a laugh or two along the way. So if you like that good old pickin' and grinnin' of classic bluegrass and gospel, then it's each and every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on 98.7 and AM 1580 WLIJ for the Paul Jones Old Time Country Music Radio Show.
Go ahead. Ask anyone about WLIJ. One of the first things you're likely to hear is, you got to get on the Swap and Shop. Why is that? Maybe because it's been running the same tried and true way for decades.